Sportsman Studios. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Heard in Minnesota, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, and online at sportingjournalradio.com. This is Sporting Journal Radio, presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.
All right, welcome to the show. I am Bret Amundson. Thank you for tuning in on this station right here, or any of the other stations across the region on the Sporting Journal Radio Network, by streaming the show on demand, by downloading the podcast, or by watching it right here on the Sporting Journal Radio YouTube channel, the Facebook channel, our Instagram, TV. I don't remember where else. It's probably all over the place. I got two fighting dogs in the background, and I got a big show for you this week. We're going to talk to Eric Osberg as we get ready for the Governor's fishing opener. What is he going to use for the opener? You don't have to be in Otter Tail Lakes country to utilize these techniques. They might work where you're fishing, or come join us in Otter Tail Lakes country. We'll talk a little bit more about what to expect there next weekend. Joe Henry's going to talk about what he's going to use up on Lake of the Woods if you want to go up there for the opener, or maybe you want to do a little bit of a different technique. They're talking about two different techniques, so you're going to have some options to help you pick out the right presentation for the opener this year. And then Ben Bredigan is going to join us, and we're going to talk turkeys. In fact, I got a turkey story that I'm going to share about how the OnX Hunt app worked for me and helped me be successful this turkey season. You're saying, okay, yeah, the app, what'd you do? You found a landowner name? No, I utilized some of the features on that app. Dan, I've told you a little bit about that, and we'll talk a little bit about how that app helped me out. Can you hear the dogs fighting in the background, by the way?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm almost numb to it. We hear that so often in our households. It's almost not out without that sound. Hi, Tiny.
Yeah, well, that was Mika barking. I took Tiny's collar off because it jingles so much. I'm like, well, I'll just take her collar off, and then we won't hear the dogs. No, they are going at it hard right now. And they're being real noisy. Anyway, so I shot this turkey. We're going to tell the story about how I shot it and how I used the OnX app coming up later in the show with Ben Bredigan, because it was really cool. It wasn't your typical way of how you'd think you'd be able to use a hunting app to be successful. I used it kind of uniquely. So I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But what we're not going to talk about in that I want to tell you about is how I ended up shooting this turkey, Dan. And I went up with Corey Loeffler, and we had a crew of guys up there. We did some dog training. Tiny had two of her brothers along with Corey Loeffler's dogs, Bonnie and Rue. And so we had Tiny, Huck, and Coda, and it was just a wild mess. So if you think this is crazy, what you can hear in the background, having all those puppies, it was a good time. Now Tiny's barking at a reflection in the window again. Gosh, it's hilarious having puppies. Anyway. It was a good time, and then Steve Sunfish came over, and then he and I went out and hunted, and then Corey and Lucas Carlos went and hunted Saturday afternoon, and we split up and went to different properties. And so Steve did the calling for me. We found this tom, and we set up on the edge of this field, and this tom started working his way towards us, and Steve's like, okay, get comfortable. So I'm trying to find a tree to kind of lean back against, but all the trees are right on the edge of this field. So if I'm going to lean up against with my back onto a tree trunk, I'm going to be exposed out into that field. So I'm like, gosh. So I kind of got to sit back behind the trees. There's some grass at the bottom of them. So I'm basically laying on my belly, looking through this grass behind these trees. And there's a couple of downed trees, some logs right in front of me, and then one standing tree. So I'm like, I'm going to try to brace myself between the standing tree and the down trees. I'm going to rest my gun barrel on the log as kind of a shooting platform, shooting stick type situation. And I'll be able to just lay here on my belly until that turkey gets into range. Piece of cake. No. I don't know how long it took. I wish I would have timed it. I don't know how long it took that turkey to come, but I was so stiff and starting to shake. All my muscles were cramping up. My back, my stomach, both my arms. My arms are starting to shake so much. I could hear Steve kind of laughing behind me because he could see it, that I finally took my right arm and I jammed it up against this tree to try to just keep myself from shaking and try not to shake the tree the whole time too. So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to get, and that turkey's just like, he's kind of eating. He leaves a hen. He's kind of eating and coming over, and then he'd strut once in a while and gobble a little bit. And I was looking through so much grass that when you're looking through so much of that stuff, you lose your depth perception a little bit. So I was trying to judge how far away he was. And then finally he got into range, had no idea we were there. We weren't using a decoy. So he just came right to the call. Steve did a great job tricking him. And finally we're like, yeah, that's in range. So I was able to like make a whole bunch of dad noises and come up out of my pose, and then just kind of got up on my knees a little bit, and he just had no idea, and I was able to shoot him. But then I did a little video. I'll be honest, I'm shaking a little bit right now. Yeah. And part of it is because I held that pose for so long, and I thought you always misjudge your pose. Like, I'll have time to rearrange a little bit before he gets here.
I'm comfortable. Shouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah. Well, we sat back there and we spotted that tom. We actually spotted him first out over there by that tree. He crossed the field, and then we met up with him. We saw him there. Steve started calling. Nice job calling, by the way.
Hey, thank you.
Brought him right into 35 yards. Got to shoot the 20 gauge with the Boss Tom. I should share that video here. I did a little bit of video talking to my phone. And I was shaking so bad, and part of it was the nerves, but a bigger part of it was like my body was going into convulsions from holding that pose for so long. But in any case, got the deal done. Man. Got the turkey. Was successful finally this year. Dan, and I switched the shotgun. I know you've been bow hunting this year, but I switched the shotgun. I used Boss Tom, which was nice. Dan, I got my Delta Waterfowl magazine the other day. I know you are now a member because you got your membership through Public Land Tees. It's part of that deal. Did you get your magazine yet?
Oh, I probably did. It's probably sitting in Woodbury. I'm sitting 4 hours away from my mailing address, but I'm sure it's waiting in my mailbox. Might be delivered to me this weekend.
So I paged through it and got it the other day, and I thought this was interesting to learn that there is a new North American duck species.
Ooh.
Any guesses? What do you think it might be?
Well, no, there are so many. There's just so many combinations. Even you go from country to country to continent, different ducks and species and combos and hybrids and whatnot. Yeah, well, I couldn't even begin to put together.
And this duck was thought to be a subspecies or some sort, not really a hybrid, but I think it was long been considered a subspecies of the mallard. It's the Mexican duck. So I'll give you a close-up shot of it right there. The Mexican duck. It was considered a subspecies of the mallard, but last June, the American Ornithological Society deemed that Mexican ducks are a separate species, now known by the scientific name of, it's Latin. But they did a bunch of DNA analysis and genetic studies to indicate that mallards, black ducks, mottled ducks, and Mexican ducks are closely related, yet distinct. And because black ducks and mottled ducks are considered by scientists to be separate species from mallards, ornithologists have decided that Mexican ducks should be their own species as well. AOS had previously decided in 1983 that Mexican ducks were a subspecies of the mallard based on extensive studies in the 1970s. And they've now reversed that decision, in part because a 2017 study showed genetic evidence suggests that hybridization is not as widespread as previous believed. You can find Mexican ducks. They breed in northern and central Mexico, west central Texas, southern New Mexico, and southeastern Arizona, and seem to be expanding their range because they're finding more and more of them up in the United States. So a new duck in the North American waterfowl species.
Yeah. Good Cinco de Mayo present for all of us waterfowlers.
That's right. Hey, Minnesota, we've been waiting. Everybody's been asking, when are we going to get our new regs? When are we going to find out about some of these potential changes, early teal, stuff like that in Minnesota? I talked to Steve Kortz the other day, and he said they are close to getting it signed. I think the commissioner next week is going to have a look at everything and make a decision, and then they'll release the details. Maybe right away, could be a couple of weeks, but I would say we're within a couple of weeks of finding out what hunters in Minnesota should expect this fall when it comes to waterfowl regulations. Dan, I've been eating goose tacos the last couple of days, and this has nothing to do with goose tacos, but as you know, we like to eat wild game, and with the fishing opener coming, it's perfect timing. I got my new Hank Shaw book in the mail the other day. This is his 5th cookbook, and this one is, I think, kind of the first one dedicated to fish species. So he's going to be doing some book signings and some different things with this book. He's going to be coming through Minnesota. In fact, we're going to be part of a date coming up in July, I believe. We're still working out the final details, but I think we're going to bring Hank Shaw here to Western Minnesota and do a book signing, have a Hank Shaw inspired meal, probably some adult beverages. So watch for that, listen for that here on the show. And follow Sporting Journal Radio on all the social media platforms for all the details on Hank Shaw coming to Minnesota. And did you see this, Dan? We get big bluegills here in Minnesota. We got the big bluegill initiative now going strong, and that's something that hopefully will bring even bigger bluegills. But our growing season is so much shorter here in the north compared to the south. When you hear about those big bluegills and big sunfish, you always hear about down south, and Lake Havasu in particular you hear about a lot. And this just came across. This is when we recorded this. I just saw this before we started recording this. And at the Bass Tackle Master of Lake Havasu, Arizona, the new pending world record red ear sunfish, 6.3 pounds, 17 inches long with a 20-inch girth. It was a Wisconsinite, guy from Wisconsin, Thomas Farchione of Waterford, Wisconsin. He's drop shot in a nightcrawler, and he caught this 6-pounder right there.
God. Yeah, I don't get super excited about bluegill, especially up here.
Man.
But I'm not sure. I'd probably need new underwear if I was reeling up and that showed up. My goodness.
That is a big one. Well, we're going to continue talking about big fish. We got Eric Osberg coming up with the Governor's Fishing Opener and what he's going to use. Might be a different technique than you'd expect. Maybe not. Also, Joe Henry's going to talk about techniques that he's going to use on Lake of the Woods for the opener. And Ben Bredigan and I are going to talk about my successful turkey story and how I utilize the OnX app to be successful. All coming up here on the show.
Hear more at sportingjournalradio.com or wherever you get podcasts.
Hunt, fish, conserve, repeat. That's the mission here at Sporting Journal Radio, and if you love the outdoors as much as we do, show it off with new wildlife-themed gear from the Sporting Journal Radio store. From hoodies to hats, coffee mugs, wildlife prints, and you can even make your phone stand out with a new case sporting some high-quality wildlife photography. Go to sportingjournalradio.com and click on Store. We have a huge selection of gear with new items being added every week. Powered by Shopify, which is trusted by over 1 million businesses and offering a variety of ways to pay, including PayPal. Shop now at sportingjournalradio.com.